Welcome. Good morning and good afternoon. Hope everyone is doing well and keeping safe at these strange times we are living in at present. Thank you for joining our live webinar today on the topic of next generation application performance monitoring. This is in joint collaboration with Arcturus Technologies and Testhouse. My name is Mel Ancheta and I will be your host. So before we begin, I'm privileged to welcome our speaker today, Mr. Deepak Batra. So Deepak is the founder and CEO of Arcturus Technologies. Arcturus Technologies are one of the leading companies today specializing in AI-based APM and real-time end-to-end performance monitoring. Deepak has a wealth of experience and in-depth knowledge with more than 15 years in the IT industry. So prior to co-founding Arcturus, Deepak worked as an architect with BAE Systems, which is based in the US. So in this capacity, he has led and managed various strategic initiatives for Fortune 500 companies and helped them craft their enterprise solutions and leveraging the state-of-the-art technologies. So prior to BEA, he also held positions as an independent advisor consultant to various large organizations for a number of years. Our brief agenda will be focused on the product from Arcturus called ApplyCare and its benefits. And we will have a Q&A session towards the end of the presentation. So before we begin, this session is being recorded, and I'd also like to encourage everyone, please, to submit their questions now or during our Q&A. So our aim really is to have some kind of an interactive session with you today. So please ask questions during the presentation or demo. So the presentation will be roughly 50 plus minutes with the bulk of the time dedicated to the live demo this morning and this afternoon. So without further delay, I now pass you over to my colleague Deepak, who will briefly introduce their product ApplyCare. Deepak?
Thank you, Mel. I appreciate it. What we see in the industry is that people are identifying the problems with the symptoms. So, in our opinion, if you get into an ambulance and then you find out that there was a problem, it's not a good idea. We also see that root cause analysis process is too cumbersome. It requires the right set of doctors or the IT doctors, and it's there is a whole lot of dependence on the right people. Every company has this tiger team or the A team, and if they are not available when the problem is occurring, it becomes an issue. So both of these things are very reactive and expensive. If the site is down and that's how you find out that there is a problem, that's not a good idea, because the damage is already done. Customers have already seen the ugly face of the site down, and you're already losing business at that point, and the reputation is already impacted. Similarly, when things go down, if you don't have the right people to look at the what went wrong, many times you don't get the root cause in the first attempt, and then you have to wait for that problem to occur again. That is again very expensive, because you don't want the problems to occur again and again in production to diagnose the issue. So what we did to overcome these foundational use cases for Arcturus is we basically built an expert system. How did we build that? We looked at our own history. So I'll take you into what I was doing prior to founding Arcturus. I was working as a consultant in BEA WebLogic's team, and I was almost every week going to a new customer. And I was seeing the problems, similar problems over and over every week at a new customer, and I was solving those problems. It was fun initially, but then it becomes boring after a while that you're doing the same thing over and over again. And that led me to think that, hey, why don't we automate this process? And rather than an individual doing these checks on where there is room for improvement and what the problem is, Why don't we have an expert system do it? And that's what led to the foundation of Arcturus, and we have built thousands of use cases the applicator rather than now Deepak checking that or Anish checking that. Now we have a virtual team of experts available through applicator, and they are working 24 by 7. So a big game changer. Firstly, we can bring multiple people's knowledge. It's no longer just Deepak going in and doing the analysis. Now we have hundreds of Deepaks going in, and the knowledge is always growing. So we are finding new patterns, we are adding that into applicator. It makes a big difference in the how the problem detection happens. It's a total game changer. I'll take you into the product now, and I'll show you how it all works. We are actually going to take you into a live demo. You guys can get access to this with from our website too. If you go on our website and if you just go into a free download page, you can get access to this demonstration environment by simply registering on our website. So once you register, you log in, not only you get access to the downloads and the guides, you also get access to the live demo, which I am using too. So what we have here is an e-commerce website. What we're going to be doing in this demonstration is we're going to be looking at a couple of items in the on this pet store. What we have purposely done is in some of those places we have either added an error or we have added a slow SQL call. So we are simulating some of the user scenarios. What happens in real life, we have simulated that into this website, into this pet store e-commerce site, and then behind the scenes applicator is monitoring jpet store, and applicator will dive into the applicator environment very quickly, and then we can see the difference, how we capture the problems automatically leveraging applicator. So what I can do is I'm gonna put this URL in the chat. If any of you guys want to do a few clicks on it, you are welcome to do so. We will be looking at the user experience for different people and so on. So I'm gonna go real quick here. First of all, I'll look at the few fishes. Here I go into the angelfish. I look at a large angelfish here. I do want to highlight one thing here. Look at the page name here. It is called View SHTML. So it's a view item page. Now I looked at angelfish. Now I'm gonna go into tiger shark. So it's the same page which we invoked with a different piece of data. So this time, rather than invoking angelfish, we have tiger shark, and we have purposely added a slow SQL in this condition. So what we are simulating is that there are problems which come either related to a person or related to the data. So when I go in, there is a problem, but when Mel is trying to reproduce that, she can't reproduce it. So those kind of things are the ones which are harder to diagnose. So this is one such scenario where the same view item, behaves fine for angelfish, but doesn't behave fine for tiger shark. So we have done this. Now let's go into applicator. This is all hosted on AWS cloud, all accessible from the cloud, and we are very cloud friendly. We are actually pretty hybrid environment friendly, so you can have pieces in cloud, you can have pieces in your own in-house, and applicator can monitor the transactions across the board uh, between different data centers, between different environments. So now I'm going to log in into our all HTML5 applicator console. And once I log in, you would see the load on the top. So you get the transaction scorecard right on the top. What's the load on the site? This is demo, so there is very little load. So right now I'm seeing none. there. But you see not only the load, what are the success rate, if there are any errors coming, we can see those errors there. And similarly, we can see the health of any of the nodes in the environment. When we come to the second level here, we're looking at various applications deployed in your environment. So we can clearly see how's the load on each application, where the requests are coming from, what type of requests are coming in. So I have selected this pet store application right now. I can see the average response time for last 15 minutes, it's 30 milliseconds. And I can choose the different time periods here, and select appropriately, look at the data here. So it gives me the big picture right then and there. I can see there are some errors coming, some HTTP errors. I can drill down into those, but my key business transactions are all successful, so I have nothing to really worry about. I can drill down into this, and I can see the requests in the last 15 minutes have come in from Virginia. So if I go into, let's say, last 1 hour here, I see the requests coming in from United States, I see the requests coming in from UK, and I see the request coming in from India. I can drill down into that further and look at the transactions from a particular country. So there is all that data available. So now let's go look at the transactions which I did. So here I can see the request coming in from Arcturus headquarter, in Leesburg, Virginia. We can customize the names of the cities. You can have your own IP range tied to a certain location and certain office name. That way, you don't have to just look at the city name. You can identify the offices where the requests are coming from. So when I go into this, right now I'm looking at the view item, the EST3. The EST3 was the slow call, the tiger shark. So right when I select that request in my real-time transactions detail, I get a very clear picture of where the time is getting spent. So I see 151 milliseconds going into the database. I see 6 milliseconds going in the app server, and 33 in the network, and 26 milliseconds in the browser. What is important here is this end-to-end picture. So you don't need multiple tools to generate this picture. This entire environment, we have only one agent running, and we are able to capture this end-to-end experience with just one applicator agent in the environment. So here we have our agent deployed on this pet store app server here, and I get the complete detail. So the big benefit of applicator is one administrator, one agent, so one tool. You don't have to, whenever the problem occurs, you can just go you can talk to just one administrator, you can look at one tool. And in most cases you don't even have to do that, because applicator automatically detects these problems and sends you an alert with the details you need. So let's go look at this. This transaction seems to be significantly slower than the other view item transaction. So here we did the other view item transaction, EST1, which is the angelfish, and I can see the time difference is almost fourfold or more. So this for tiger shark, it took 4 times the time compared to the other one. So once we select that the transaction, I can clearly see the database is behave has behaved very differently. So here I see database took less than a millisecond, and here the database took significantly longer. So when I go into this, here the database took 151 milliseconds. So let's drill down into this and see what took so long. So once I get into the details there, I can clearly see right there, before even I expand this, I could see right here that 94% of my time for the entire transaction is going into this SQL, into this select statement. And that select statement is fully available to us. We can see right here, we can see it in the different views. So the chart may not be as readable, all the details if the select statement is big. But in this view, you can see the select statement completely, how much time it is taking, how many times it is getting invoked. If there were any errors in the transactions, you would see those errors right here. So now, right on the top, I'm able to see the complete stack trace, and we call it IntelliTrace. So we are able to see the complete IntelliTrace of the transaction. And why is it called IntelliTrace? Because what we are doing in Applicare is we are automatically deciding what should be monitored, to what extent, at what time. So that's the critical piece in monitoring. If you do too much monitoring, you're going to bring down your application, or you're going to slow down the response of your application. If you do too little monitoring, you're going to miss out on the things which should be captured by monitoring. So there is a delicate balance of what should be monitored, to what extent, and at what time. And this, the harder part is, this balance keeps changing. So you can't just have, hey, let's keep monitoring this get special requirements method all the time, um, and we will get the capture the problem, because problems keep moving. So right now, the problem came in this get special requirements. It took 151 milliseconds. Applicare capture the details. If so, there was, and there are so many other methods where there is no problem, so there is no need to capture the details. So Applicare makes these decisions in real time, and is able to appropriately capture the right data. Now let's go. I'm going to open another tab, and I'll take you into the angelfish there, which we were looking at. So let's get into the drill down here, and let's see this drill down. See, the picture looks significantly different for this one. There is no one SQL consuming 97% of the time for the transaction. And see this get special requirements, it's taking less than a millisecond in this particular case. So there was, so Applicare automatically is able to decide that there is no need to capture the details on this method. See here, get special requirements took 151 milliseconds. It Applicare captured the details. Here it took less than a millisecond. There was no need to capture further stack trace, and it wasn't captured. So the important part is, look at the time here. So this was 7:12:37. This was 7:12:55. So there was no time to manually change the instrumentation behind the scenes or make changes to the monitoring. And you shouldn't be required to do that. You should be automatically getting to know these problems as and when they occur, and that's what Applicare does. So it has the doctor built into the box, the artificial intelligence working, the machine learning working. The moment you deploy Applicare in your environment, it automatically starts building the baseline. It's building the baseline for the transaction. It's building the baseline for the methods. So it knows, uh, over, like, just after a few transactions have gone through the system, Applicare has already gathered the intelligence on what is normal and what is not normal. So with the help of that baselining and with the help of that machine learning, we are able to automatically identify in real time what is abnormal, and we are able to flag that, and we are able to take actions on that abnormal. So what Applicare IntelliTrace does, and we also have the same concept applied at the transaction level, which we call IntelliSense. So what IntelliSense would do is, it would detect that there is a problem with this particular transaction. Okay, this took significantly longer. I should capture the details. And so IntelliSense would trigger the detail capture, and IntelliTrace would have the similar detail capturing at the method level. So IntelliTrace would decide what method should be captured and to what extent. So with the IntelliSense technology and IntelliTrace technology, we are able to identify in production these are the transactions which didn't behave right at this particular time, and these methods or these SQL calls or these external web services calls were the problematic calls. So this is very valuable for you. In the middle of the night something happens, or nobody needs to babysit the system anymore. You can have applicator watching your environment, automatically detecting the problems, and we send complete details. When we send the alerts, our alerts are there is a lot of data in the alert. So when the alert comes, you will have pretty much the complete stack trace of the transaction, so you'll be able to see what what the issue is without even you don't need to log in into applicator console even at that time. So, and you can also share this information with other people. So I can just pick this transaction, I can send it to, hey, send it to this guy. This is the, please look at it. There is a problem, and done. And I can just send this transaction to whoever I wanted to send it to. So this way you can share the information with the development team. They can come back into Applicator, look at it, and you know the complete DevOps just works. We have extensive details in the transaction. So let me just go. You can look at the what browser the customer is using, what server the call went to, how much was the time spent in the app server, what was the time spent in the network, and so on. So there are extensive details available. We can do the what if analysis. We can see that, hey, there are some people who have come in with the Firefox browser here in the last 1 hour, and some people are using Chrome 83. And let's look at the performance of the browsers. So we can do comparison in the performance. So it looks like Firefox is beating Chrome. There are very similar number of transactions. Average rendering time for Chrome is 225 milliseconds versus for Firefox it is 146 milliseconds. So if I were to make a decision on the browser, I would need a little bit more data, but I can get the data where my application performs better. So I can have recommendations for my customers that, hey, you should be using this. Similarly, we can look at what servers the requests are going to. In this particular case, there happens to be only one server hosting the JPEG store. So we have those details. But we can see at any point of time where the time is going. Is load the factor? Is rendering time the factor? Is network the issue? So we can see the key performance indicators right here. So these are the generally items. Generally the load could be the factor. So let's look at this from here. The average rendering time, average app server time 14 milliseconds, 8 milliseconds. App server time went up in this particular case 326 milliseconds. So I'm getting to know anytime the problems are occurring, I can see where the issue is. And I already went over the drill down. These things help you identify, narrow it down to, is it a problem with the app server? Is it a problem with the network? Is it a problem with the user's desktop? And so on. Similarly, we can see the data coming in from, hey, what operating systems are being used. We can get a lot of details with respect to the analytics in the environment. So we can see what's the visitors rate, new versus repeat visitors, how many visits at any point of time, what's the frequency, what's the bounce rate, what kind of pages the customers are invoking, how much time they are spending on an average on a particular page. So you not only get the transactions detail, but we have the analytics built in into Applicator to give you the complete analytics data. We also have synthetic user experience monitoring built into Applicare. So you're not only doing the real user experience monitoring, but you can even monitor your application in off hours. You can ensure that before the users come in, application is working well. So the way Applicare does the synthetic monitoring is we use Apache JMeter for the synthetic monitoring. So we are able to, so that's an industry standard open source tool So you don't have to learn any proprietary technology. You can build, and it's a very popular, widely used tool. So that way you don't have, you can just build the script which you use for load testing. You can just plug that into Applicare with the right number of users, and we can run the synthetic checks from those scripts. So here in this particular case, we can see that we have the JMeter script which goes into the onto the index page. Then it looks at a few view category here. Then it signs on into the application, and then looks at a few items. Then we can have, hey, add to the cart, check out, all that process into a synthetic monitor. That way, if anything goes wrong with your application, any part of your application becomes slow, Applicare would automatically generate an alert for you. And again, our alert would contain all this information that, hey, Applicare was able to get through, say, everything else except for view product page or except for add to cart page. So in your alert, you will get that information that this, and this passed, but this one failed. So that way you can make a decision on, without even logging into Applicare, that what is going on. You can drill down into the details. So say if I go into this, and I wanted to get into the details of that view item, I can just double click on this, and I can get into the details of that view item transaction. So extremely valuable. In a matter of like 2 to 3 clicks, you are able to go from very high level enterprise view, where we are looking at the information on the map with big pictures, and then we are able to drill down into the nitty gritty details down to the developers level in a matter of 3 clicks. So if you look at even this map right here, we can see, look at the average page load time. So the average page load time is 1897 milliseconds, so about two seconds there. And let's look at the page load time, average page load time from US. So 95 milliseconds. Average page load time is extremely low compared to India, because the application is hosted in US right now. It's hosted in Virginia. So that's what makes the difference. And look at the rendering time. Here, the average rendering time is, which took too long, but I don't have a big sample size right now. So I can see there are only 2 pages which were invoked from India. So I don't have a big enough sample size. These numbers may change as we have more samples. But what I'm trying to show you right now is that it's extremely valuable that you're able to do the analysis right then and there, that is there a problem in the application. So I'm seeing the app server time from different countries is about the same. So 24 milliseconds in the app server time from US, UK. India app server time is significantly higher too. So we need to look at that. But this way we can identify, is the problem related to the back end? Is the problem related to the middle tier, and or is it with the network or with the front end? So if my application is performing well, what I would do, I would look at these pages, what pages were invoked from India, and I can go select the country. So I see United Kingdom, I see United States. Okay, where is India? Okay, there is India. So see, this is the call which took too long. Okay, it took 1 second, this thing. So there is, like, so right there, I'm starting to see that this particular call took longer time, and the time to first byte was the high number. So we start to see the clear pattern. But since I'm not having the problem with the same call, let's look at the birds. I'm going to just do a quick, okay, let's go into the fishes. I'm going to go into birds. Okay, let's go back here. I mean, there was no real delay on my end. So we get the complete detail. And this is where the time went. 595 milliseconds went into the formation of the page itself. Now, since I don't see the same problem when I go into when I did the birds. So it seems like there is something happening when I go to the birds, it's taking a little bit longer versus when I'm going into the fish. Maybe it's the amount of data which we are loading with the birds. That's what is making the difference. So we have clearly identified the the pages. When I look at reptiles, it's much faster versus when I go into birds. So these are the kind of things Applicare can automatically identify for you and send you alerts as and when the problems occur. Let me look at, there was a question on the load runner. Can Applicare integrate with load runner? So what we have is we have shell script integration in Applicare. You can invoke a shell script, and from that shell script you can invoke load runner. So you can invoke load runner from the bat file, and Applicare can do synthetic checks with that. And we also have some integration with.
Deepak,
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry to disturb. Sorry to disturb you, Deepak.
Okay.
So when I said, load runner integration with Applicare, what I'm saying is like I've used Dynatrace before. So the load runner integrates with Dynatrace in the sense that whatever the transactions you define in load runner, they flow into Dynatrace and it will show the response times for those particular
We
transactions.
do the same
So on
thing.
the similar lines, yeah,
Yeah,
similar lines.
we do exactly the same thing. So you can define your transactions in load runner, and those would become the key business transactions in Applicare, and the data will be captured for those. But the big differentiator of Applicare is that we have artificial intelligence. We have the expert system in the product. So we have hundreds of Deepaks built into the product. We have pattern recognition where we have identified patterns like, hey, your network packets are getting dropped at this particular on this particular card. Applicare would automatically identify that. Hey, your connections are leaking in this particular machine. Applicare would automatically identify that. It'll send you an alert with those things. You have stuck threads. Applicare would automatically identify those conditions. Let me take you into the JVM. See, if you have a stuck thread condition, Applicare would automatically identify that. It'll automatically send you the details in the email. You don't have to go look at taking the thread dumps, analyzing those thread dumps. So here, what I just did is I manually took a thread dump. I'm able to visually, graphically analyze the thread dump. I can see what are the deadlock threads. If there are any stuck threads, I can look at the threads from various different angles. Are there, how many threads are runnable? Are they in the time wait state? So I can do the analysis from here. Any of you guys who have done these things, you know that the timing is the key. If you don't look at the system at the right time, if you don't get the thread dump, if you don't get the memory information, or you don't get the network information when the problem is occurring, the later on data is no good. Having the right data at the right time is the key. And that's where Applicare's expert system based approach differentiates us. It does what I would have done if I was sitting in front of that machine, but it does it million times faster than even what I could do with years of experience. The moment you deploy Applicare in your environment, we produce eye-opening results for you in a matter of minutes. And you guys should take this challenge and try it with our eval version in your own environment. So that way you can just see what I'm talking about. Deployment is very quick. In a matter of few minutes, you get the eye-opening results. Like you can see, hey, what is happening with a particular environment, where the shortcomings are, where the bottlenecks are. And we're not only looking at it from the transactions perspective. We have a very comprehensive level 1 monitoring or operating system monitoring, the app server monitoring. So we can look at it from various different angles. And all of these dashboards come pre-built into Applicare. So you don't have to build, when you get Applicate out of the box, you don't have to build any dashboards. You don't have to set up. 90% of our alerts are automatic alerts. So we don't want you to set up what should be the SLA for a particular transaction. We do allow that. We don't have a problem with, you can set up a SLA on a business transaction, But at the same time, you may not know what is normal for a particular transaction. You get a new system, Applicare would automatically identify what is normal for a particular system. It would automatically flag it if the transaction time is abnormal, whether it is meeting the SLA or not. You can have that at the same time. So there are transactions. There could be transactions which are meeting your SLA, but not, but still very abnormal based on the patterns which Applicare has detected. So Applicare would find those details, flag those transactions, and you can have Applicare only capture the performance details on those transactions. So it's fairly simple to say in Applicare, you can very quickly say, hey, only capture the trace when the transactions are slow, or there is a failure, or SLAs are not met. Only capture the bad guys, is basically what we are saying. Because some of our customers are doing hundreds of millions of transactions a day. There are e-commerce sites, there are online casinos, there are online trading firms, there are millions of transactions, hundreds of millions of transactions happening every day. You don't want to be capturing this level of detail. You may not want to capture this level of detail for every one of them, although we are very capable, but at the same time we have the right controls built in. That way you don't have the information overload from the tool. So this is the area where pointing the right information at the right time to you guys is one of the differentiator of Applicare. So artificial intelligence, machine learning, a nice balance of, and an expert system, a nice balance between the three gives you the automated problem detection which you want. So yeah, Mel, go ahead. You had some questions. Please go ahead and you can ask them.
Thank you, Deepak. Yeah, just one question coming from one of our attendees today. It's a fairly long question, Deepak, so bear with me. So in a hybrid environment, web app servers, microservice, mainframes, and database, how do you set up the Applicare? Does the agents needs to be installed on all layers of the technology stack? Deepak?
Okay, so very good question. Generally, if you have deployed an agent on an app server, it would be able to capture the details of the network performance, of the database performance. So if you look at the picture, the pet store application which we are working with here, we have just a single agent deployed in this entire stack, and we are able to get nth level detail, like everything which I have showed you right now, we are able to capture by just simply deploying one agent on the app server. But if you have a distributed application across different technologies, yes, then you would need to deploy Applicare agent on the entire stack.
Can I give you a follow-up question on that, Deepak, if
Absolutely,
that's
please,
okay? Perfect,
please.
perfect. Okay. So the follow-up question is, does the agents lift data from the client's hosting environment and send it to Applicare's cloud for data crunching? If so, will it conflict with the client's IT security policies?
Our product can be deployed in-house too, so that you can have a on-prem deployment. That way the data never leaves your premises. Or we can have the single tenant cloud deployment for you, and we leverage AWS behind the scenes. So we'll pretty much be able to provide you an ultra secure environment for storage of your data, which is strictly and only in use by your company. Yeah, go ahead, Mel. Any other follow up? Any other questions?
No, that's it for now, Deepak. Thank you.
Okay, we've talked about the user experience monitoring. We have talked about synthetic monitoring. The business transaction monitoring. This thing is, I want to quickly talk about it. Your transactions don't have to be web applications or web transactions. You can have transactions which are, just plain old Java or any other technology, .NET or Node.js code executing behind the scenes and with no web front end. We can still monitor the transactions the same way We have the dashboards built in for key business transactions. So what we can do is, what the question was brought up earlier, you can have your key business transactions defined in your load generation tool, and applicator would automatically detect, work with the load generation tool, detect those key business transactions. It'll automatically start monitoring kbt level details for those. So you have these charts available. What is the load at any point of time on a particular transaction? You can see the response time on a particular transaction. You can see, hey, is your load distribution working? So right here I can see that, hey, there has been some failures on view item, but everything else looks good. I can actually drill down into this, and I can see where the failures were. I can, right here, I see there are some speed based failures. I can look at the data based on, hey, was the transaction ever failed? So in these two particular instances, the transaction actually failed. And this is that scenario where we have purposely caused that error in this application. So we have some scenarios where, let's go into this koi, we actually have this exception coded, and we many times people will tell us, hey, your application is failing. We purposely put that failure in the transaction, just to be able to show you guys that applicator automatically detects the transaction. So this is est5 item id. Let's look at that. What is koi? This is the est5. So we when those exceptions occur, applicator automatically captures those exceptions in the application and is able to send you the appropriate alerts. So just to wrap up, I mean, I'm going to add actually a few more things. We have custom dashboarding. You can pick and choose the data you want to see, create the dashboards the way you want, extensive performance comparison capabilities. We have the events calendar, so you can see how your application or your environment is progressing over a period of time, how many alerts came in on a certain day, what incidents occur. You don't have to go into Outlook to see all that data. You can see all that data from applicator itself. So you can see that, hey, I want to look at, let's say, July. I can see how the application is performing. There were 700 of the slow transactions here, but the things have kind of got better over the period of time. So we have all that information available. You can monitor the availability of servers. We can also monitor the logs. So we have one tool, built. So with one tool, you're not only doing the applications monitoring, infrastructure monitoring, availability monitoring, you're also doing the logs monitoring. So you don't have to go into multiple tools to do analysis. You don't have to do multiple agents deployment for doing these different things. And at the end, you get the alerts as and when problems occur. You can also schedule reports in applicator where you can say, hey, I want to see my last 24 hours performance every morning, by city. I want to see my transactions by city every morning at 9 a.m. You can schedule that in applicator, and it'll come back to you in the email.
Thank you so much for the presentation today. Very informative presentation, and obviously the demo for Applicare. I hope that you got a taster of the Applicare's immense capabilities, Deepak's demo today. So I'll just briefly talk about Testhouse. I have been fortunate to be working with Testhouse for the last 15 years, and I'm responsible for the marketing and resourcing for the company. So Testhouse is a quality assurance DevOps consultancy, and we have been in the business since 2000. We are headquartered in London with offices in India, Middle East, and the US. We are partnered with some of the biggest players within the IT industry, including Microsoft, Microsoft, Micro Focus, and IBM. So for the last 20 years, we've been working with small, medium to large enterprise clients globally, providing software testing and quality assurance services. We have about 500 employees and significant project experience working across multiple and varied industries, primarily within the banking and the financial institution as well. So we are ISO certified, and we are proud to have that certification for us. And I also want to just mention that we are also proud to be the recipient of the Queen's Award for Enterprise International Trade, given by Her Royal Highness herself, and it is one of the highest honors for any UK business around in UK. Just to give you a bit of the partnership we have with Arcturus, just the value proposition briefly before we go on to the Q&A session. We are obviously proud to be partners with Arcturus on their APM solution. So Testhouse has considerable experience working across multiple industries, and obviously we understand challenges in these industries. So combining the enterprise grade A tools like Applicare from Arcturus, we are able to deliver testing to an optimal standard, and of course ensure the quality assurance throughout the delivery process. So combining Testhouse global expertise with Applicare, it brings together 20 domain knowledge with our next gen tool expertise, so as to deliver exceptional service and just to support our clients globally. So we can take combined approach to training, from strategy to test strategy to real-time monitoring as well, so you can get the best of both worlds. We can also provide a joint approach, so to projects offering significant discount through joint proposition. So if anyone is interested to know more about on that, please feel free to get in touch with us. So just to summarize, the partnership with Testhouse and Actors together can provide some incredible value to all our clients, where you can have confidence in us, our synergy, collaboration, and then which in turn will increase our ability to deliver efficiently with highest quality. So on that note, we will now commence our Q&A session. Please feel free to ask questions. Thank you for all the questions that you've mentioned to Deepak so far. So if you do have any questions, feel free to ask in the next couple of minutes, and then we hopefully Deepak will aim to answer them for you. Deepak, I think we have one or two questions coming in. Is that okay with you, sir?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so question is, how does it impact the performance?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because we are always asked that question on, when you deploy the monitoring, and I did talk about it to quite an extent in the presentation. But the key is IntelliSense and IntelliTrace, that we are automatically doing the tracing, we are automatically doing the right amount of monitoring when needed. That way, we are not gathering unnecessary information. We are not blocking the entire queue. We are doing the pattern recognition, and that's what makes the huge difference. We are able to do this level of monitoring without having any noticeable impact in most cases. And I would want you to take it for a spin, try it for yourself, and you'll see what I mean.
The last question is, do we detect connection leaks?
Absolutely. We do detect connection leaks. Anytime there is a code which is leaking the connection, Applicare would automatically detect it and send an email. And we do that for many things. We are not just doing for only connection leak. I talked about stuck threads, network packets getting dropped, database issues. Applicare has a lot of these pattern detections built into the code, and it really comes to shine in production environment.
Perfect. Thanks, Deepak. So that is all we have time for Q&A. So for those who have any further questions on our presentation, or just a general query, please feel free to ask. The details are on your screen, either from Arcturus or from Testhouse. So before we go, as Deepak says, if you want to schedule a one-to-one demo of their solution called Applicare, please feel free to contact the team at Arcturus or Testhouse. So that concludes our session. On behalf of myself, Deepak.
No, thank you very much. I just want to say I appreciate you taking the time to come, and we look forward to working with you going forward.
Perfect. Thank you for joining our live presentation and demo for today.